Tomorrow, and I want to welcome you to our not quite live virtual coffee hours. For those who are new, I know many of you got flyers that look similar to this one in your mailboxes recently. I want to welcome you. This is something that we do every single week that the Senate is in session, where we host a virtual coffee hours online. We live stream it on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And it's just a great opportunity for you to hear in a no pressure, casual environment on your turf, on your time, an update on what is happening in the state, an update on what is happening in the legislature. And typically we open it up for live Q&A. Now we are on our in-district work period during the summer. That means the Senate is largely on recess. We are not meeting in Lansing. Many people think that's when we all go on vacation. I can tell you that nothing is further from the truth. This is when we get, in my mind, the best work done. This is where we are not sitting on the Senate floor. I don't have to commute to Lansing every day. And we get to meet with constituents, go to community events, talk to our local governments, work on drafting legislation. I'm taking a lot of meetings right now around legislation related to electric vehicles and infrastructure. So there's a lot of work that's happening. It is just in our districts. Now, with that, we did have a session day this week today. It was a tentative scheduled one. We had it. So I am recording this on Thursday evening after session from home. Wanted to give you a brief update on what is happening. But all of that is to say, if you are joining us for the first time and you have any questions that you want answered in a future episode, hit us up on email, send mcmorrow@senate.michigan.gov. You can also find us on our website at senatormcmorrow.com. Or if you just want to watch for a little while and get some more real-time engagement, I am over on Twitter at Mallory McMorrow, so you can follow along there. Just want to touch on very quickly what we did this week. Typically, this is the time of the year where the legislature is focused on passing the budget. The state has an approximately $60 billion state budget for all of the 10 million residents who live here. It is due constitutionally from the legislature on October 1st. However, that is not what we did this week. We passed a number of bills, but the big one that you're going to hear about is a petition initiative called Unlock Michigan. This was a petition initiative that was led by some dark money groups. I'm just going to put that out there. Some questionable collection practices, but collected about 500,000 signatures from registered voters. And the way that Michigan law works is typically this would be a ballot initiative that would go to the ballot to allow all of the voters of the state of Michigan to vote on something. But there is a loophole in the way that Michigan law works where if they collect enough signatures and those signatures are certified to be valid by the State Board of Canvassers, the state legislature has the first crack at that. So they can choose to adopt that and immediately pass it into law, or they can punt and send it to the ballot for people to vote on. But what this sets up is a reality where about 5% of the population can forward and pass something into law, potentially against the will of the majority, because we haven't sent it to the ballot to find out what most voters would think. So what is Unlock Michigan? We went through a hell of a year and a half with the COVID-19 pandemic and how we had to respond to really living in history. We lived through a global pandemic. I say lived, we're not quite out of the woods yet. We are certainly on the other side where we are back out largely to normal. We are seeing friends and family. But the 1945 Emergency Powers of the Governor Act, which was passed by a previous state legislature in 1945, grants the governor the emergency powers to issue executive orders in the way that Governor Whitmer did during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, actually ruled that that use was unconstitutional and effectively ruled the executive orders null and void. However, the Department of Health and Human Services does have the ability to issue health orders when an issue of public health is at play, but we're getting in the weeds on that. So what does this petition initiative actually do? So despite all of that, this initiative wanted to repeal the 1945 law completely. So, I think where a lot of people are getting caught up in the details is however you feel about this governor in this moment, what this petition initiative would do is completely repeal this law and remove it from any future governor. And I voted against this for the reason that we don't know what the future holds. The legislature is a deliberatively slow-moving body. And it is a slow-moving body that also does not have the ability to meet remotely. We have had session days canceled because of COVID-19 outbreaks with members. We have had session days canceled because of threats on people or on the building. There was a bomb threat on the building, a number of potentially violent protests. And for a number of other reasons, session has been canceled. We cannot conduct this business virtually, as many companies and local governments have been doing. We have to physically go to the Capitol in Lansing to conduct our business as current rules state. So, thinking about the future and potential emergencies, we are seeing a rise in extreme weather incidents. We will likely face another pandemic in our lifetimes. I hope nothing like this one, but that is the potential reality. If the state is ever at war, if the United States is at war and is impacting Michigan, if there are other threats that puts the state in a state of emergency, this law allowed the executive of the state, the governor, to act quickly. And the legislature does not have the ability to move quickly enough. And I think what we have seen throughout the past year and a half proves that, where even when the legislature was given the opportunity, when the majority got what they asked for, when the Supreme Court ruled the usage, as the governor was using it, unconstitutional, the legislature passed nothing that would slow or stop the spread of COVID-19. And that, to me, is dangerous. I could not support that. In a perfect world, emergencies would be short-lived. There is another emergency powers law, an act that is still in place that says that the governor has this ability for up to 28 days and then requires the approval of the legislature. And a lot of people have said, what's wrong with that one? And again, we don't know what the future holds. And I have pushed the legislature to be more nimble, to have a contingency plan where we can operate remotely. But until that is in place, what we're saying is, if there is an emergency that lasts longer than 28 days, let's say there are attacks, let's say the country is at war, and the legislature cannot physically get to the Capitol building, there's no action. There's no response. There's no contingency plan. And I could not in good conscience support that. The legislature that put this law in place in 1945, they lived through the 1918 pandemic, and they put this in place intentionally so that the executive, the person who was voted into office by a majority of residents of the state of Michigan, would have the ability to respond to an emergency quickly. The legislature drafts, debates, introduces laws. The executive is the executive, just like any company, any organization who can respond quickly. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on that. We will post more about that, but that's what we did this week. Like I said, if you have any other questions, comments, feel free to shoot us an email. Follow us on our website. Again, you can sign up for our email newsletter. And for those who are new, welcome. I hope you will join us again for another virtual coffee hour every single week that the Senate is in session. Also, if you sign up for our email newsletter, we will post the days throughout the summer when we're not in session that we're still going to be doing these. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, spend time with your loved ones, and we will talk to you very soon.